There is no other alternative. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg emphasized that Western countries have no alternative but to continue supporting Ukraine's fight against Russia. This assertion was made when doubts emerged over the support that the United States, U.S., continues to provide to Ukraine. It happens very often in war, when people realize that this is probably going to last a long time. This is very demanding. This is difficult, Stoltenberg said in an interview with AFP at NATO headquarters in Brussels, as reported by AFP Tuesday, the 28th of November 2023. We have no other alternative. The alternative to let President Vladimir Putin win is a tragedy for Ukraine and dangerous for us, he stressed. The U.S. has provided more than $40 billion in security assistance to Ukraine since Russia's invasion began more than a year ago, and has pledged to continue supporting Kyiv as long as necessary. But opposition from the Republican Party raises questions about the future of U.S. aid to Ukraine. Despite the difficulties, despite the lack of progress or achievements or territorial gains, we need to continue to support Ukraine, Stoltenberg said. We have a responsibility as political leaders and also as citizens of our country to support Ukraine, he added. Furthermore, Stoltenberg dismissed concerns about the failure of Ukrainian troops to make a breakthrough and doubts about the West's commitment to fuel the Kremlin's belief that they can still achieve victory in the long term. Putin has not achieved what he wanted in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine was a strategic mistake and a big defeat for Putin, he said. Stoltenberg also declined to speculate on whether Ukraine could gain NATO membership if it agreed to cede some of its territory to Russia. That would only be interpreted as starting some kind of negotiations on behalf of Ukraine, and I will not do that, said the former Norwegian Prime Minister, PM. It is Ukraine that decides what conditions they want to accept. Our responsibility is to support Ukraine, and that is what we are doing, he said. Ukraine says Russian drones are now more difficult to detect. Why? Ukraine's military has revealed that dozens of kamikaze drones that the Russian military launched into its territory in recent attacks were more difficult for air defenses to detect. Why is that? As reported by Al Arabiya, Monday, the 27th of November 2023, the spokesman for the Ukrainian Air Force, Yuri Inat, in a statement quoted by the Ukrinform news agency, admitted that the color and material of the Russian drone made it more difficult to detect after it was launched. Inat explained that the kamikaze drones launched by Russia against Ukrainian territory had an unusual black color and were coated with carbon which could absorb radar signals. Now we see they are using carbon, a material that absorbs radar signals, and they are also painting it black. This will complicate the performance of our air defense, namely the visuals of mobile fire groups, said Inat in his statement on Sunday, 26/11 local time. However, Inat stressed that this did not prevent air defense units from effectively shooting down almost all the drones launched by the Russian military into Ukrainian territory. Despite possible visual similarities, the Shahed drones launched in the latest attack are not the latest jet launch variants currently believed to be produced by Iran, it said. Last September, according to Inat, Russian troops launched around 500 drones to attack Ukrainian territory. He added that the number of drones Moscow has used in recent attacks has decreased somewhat, which he said suggests that the enemy is stockpiling drones. In his statement, Inat also did not deny the increase in production and modernization of Shahed drones by Russia. As I said before, they used more than 500 units in September, so that stock will have to be restored. Maybe the factories are not yet operating at the capacity they want, or Iran may not provide the numbers they want to continue the attacks, he said. Believe me, if they had enough weapons, they would all be launched here, Ukraine said, because these weapons drain our air defense capabilities. These weapons sometimes hit targets, so they will use them. They are now taking a break to gather the numbers they need to attack our infrastructure, Inat said in his statement. Regarding modernization, that will happen. The weaknesses and strengths of each type of weapon have been studied in real combat. And with the Shahed drone, they will definitely make some improvements, he said. Last weekend, Ukraine claimed its forces had shot down 71 Russian combat drones in the latest attack on its territory. Kyiv authorities called it Moscow's biggest drone attack on Ukraine's capital since the invasion began more than a year ago. Kyiv city authorities reported that around 5 people were injured as a result of the series of Russian drone attacks. One of the injured victims was an 11-year-old child. Russia is said to have used the Shahed kamikaze drone designed by Iran in attacks launched against various districts in the Kyiv region in the early hours of Saturday, 25/11, with more waves of attacks launched at sunrise. 71 Russian drones shot down in biggest attack on Kyiv. Ukraine claims its forces have shot down 71 Russian combat drones in the latest attack on its territory. Kyiv authorities called it Moscow's biggest drone attack on Ukraine's capital since the invasion began more than a year ago. As reported by AFP, Saturday, the 25th of November 2023, Kyiv city authorities reported that around 5 people were injured as a result of a series of attacks by Russian drones. One of the injured victims was an 11-year-old child. Russia is said to have used the Shahed kamikaze drone designed by Iran in attacks launched against various districts in the Kyiv region in the early hours of Saturday, 25/11, with more waves of attacks launched at sunrise. The Air Force has destroyed 71 Shahed 136 UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. Most of the drones were destroyed in the Kyiv region. The Ukrainian Air Force said via social media. An air raid warning in Kyiv was activated for 6 hours as a barrage of Russian drones rained down on the Ukrainian capital. Debris from the drone that was shot down fell, starting fires and damaging a number of buildings in several parts of Kyiv. The enemy continues to terrorize, said Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko, referring to Russia. Klitschko, in a statement via Telegram as reported by Al Arabiya, reported that the series of Russian drone attacks resulted in 5 injuries, including an 11-year-old girl.